Hello guys and welcome back. So let's move on to the back of the hair. I have already defined the bigger clumps of hairs, so all I have to now is adding details, but my resolution is really low. And one more problem here is that the topology here is also really good to support detail deformation. I'm gonna do, because they're actually like diamond shapes across the direction I wanted to have smaller strands of hair. So I need to first Control D to divide it maybe twice to get a smoother result, and then I'm gonna go delete the let me restore my custom UI here. Alright, I'm gonna also go delete the lower subdivision level, leaving me a high resolution model like this. And then what I'm going to go for is the zero measure here actually, with the poly count of 20. Okay, I know this is a little bit more work, but that's gonna give me better geometry flows to help me create those hairs with cleaner results. Okay, so this step can be there, or if you don't really care about that, you can of course skip this process. But you see now the edge loops are flowing to the direction my hair will go for, so that's gonna be better for me to create detailed hairs. Alright, so let me Control D to subdivide it 2 times maybe, so I have a lot of, maybe one more time, maybe that's good enough, we'll see. So I'm gonna use this damn standard brush. This brush will help me to create those little structures here. I also want lazy mouse to be turned on, so let me do that here. Underneath stroke, okay. Lazy mouse, the shortcut is L button. You can toggle it up on or off. The radius has to be a little bit higher, so that when I drag out, it's gonna be more like this. Right, and then another thing, if you have subdivided too much, you have some dot effect. If your lazy radius is too big, it doesn't really have that sometimes, but just in case that you have those dot by dot results, I cannot really describe that, but if you have inconsistent results, go change one thing here underneath the modifiers, make the row distance to something really high. That's gonna give you a much sharper, crisp, clear result. Okay, it's just bringing those dots closer to each other, so you're not having those artifacts anymore. Although that actually affects how deep your cut is, so don't make it too high maybe. Alright, so that's that part. And I think we're pretty much done with the settings of the brush. So now what I'm gonna do is, of course, first redefine my bigger clumps. So here I'm gonna draw one line here to make sure that that's where I wanted this clamp to ends over there, and one more here, and maybe 2 more lines. Doesn't matter how much lines, but I want you to concentrate your stroke on these parts that you defined earlier, because those bigger things are the structure. Okay, one more thing you can do after the first stroke to dipping in, you can hold it down Alt and click on the shoulder of that stroke to make a line popping out, so you have a nice sharp strand created up there. Okay, a very neat technique. Alright, so one more here. Again, I'm not gonna do a whole lot of those things first. I'm gonna use those. I'm gonna first define where my bigger strands are, where my big clumps are, sorry, where those bigger things are, before I move on to create smaller details. I may need to have lower resolution, so I'll Shift D to go back 1 subdivision level. So I'm now on and my smooth needs to be stronger. I'm now on 200,000 kind of poly count. Again, just define the bigger clumps before you move on to smaller details. You can draw multiple lines, but it's going to be around those intersecting area. Make sure those things are defined properly before you move on to smaller ones. Again, those things are more important, and sometimes you're using a very good technique to create nice and clean lines like this, but that doesn't guarantee you will end up with a nice appealing result because you don't really care about those bigger things. That's gonna make your thing looks really plain, boring, without any variations. So that's why I highly encourage you to do those things first. Alright, so maybe something like here and more there. Oops. So that part is a little weird. Let me redraw that line. Cool. So one more here maybe, and my last one is gonna be over here. Right. You see, those are the basic big separations that I will want it to be always true over here. And then for smaller ones, let me actually smooth those out a little bit before I do the smaller ones. Let me yeah, go smooth those out. So they start really sharp, maybe they blend out in the middle. Okay. Alright, now let's move on to create smaller things. So I'm gonna go make my brush smaller, and maybe even the intensity smaller, so I know that I'm not gonna create something stronger than what I have earlier. So here it's just gradually build up smaller lines in the middle. Again, even for those things you want to find out variations on density, so I'm gonna try to make those things happening more at the edge of my bigger clumps, so I'll have more on this area and that area, and leave the middle area more empty. You know, this is how we draw it when we're drawing those hairs using a 2D way. This is probably how we do it. So I think 2D ways, although they're sometimes it's fake, but those are very good philosophies, more or less. You talk about that as philosophy, but you know, just try to apply those 2D techniques if you have learned that in figure drawing or things like that. You know, apply that on your 3D sculpting. You will be amazed at how they could help even for 3D stuff. I'm using move brush to fine tune where things are. Okay, some more smaller strands. Maybe I need higher resolution now. And every time when I get to the details, to me it's a boring job actually, because you're just repeating that step. So a lot of things in character modeling or modeling are arguably boring to me, but you know, when they actually all finished, it's not boring looking anymore. But it's a boring step or process of creating all those details. So I don't really enjoy it too much. I think the fun part is blocking. After that, it's not that interesting anymore. At least to me, it's like that. So I would stay at that part more, because the more you spend time to make that part good, it's actually really good. It's actually going to define how your final result will looks like anyways. So yeah, I will stay at that part longer, but for this tutorial I didn't really spend too much time on it, because it's a tutorial, right? So just going through the process. But I would encourage you to spend more time on the starting part, blocking those bigger clumps, spending more time on it, so that they will actually very well defined. So now, later on when you're doing the smaller details, they fit together and looks better. Okay, so just having some more smaller strands. you can go crazy small if you wanted to make the hair look like super detailed. Yeah. Now, some of those things can be done using bulk map later on, or you may have other workflows using Substance Spinner to actually do this. That's possible too. The downside of using sculpting is that you have a resolution limit. By resolution, I mean the poly count. For texturing part, though, you also have you also have limitations on the shape you can create, because sculpting is more free on shape, and texture and shape doesn't have a really strong corresponding relationship, so it's really hard to tell what shape you're doing. Alright, so I'm gonna fast forward this part. I don't want to ramble all the time. So when it's done, then I can move on to the back part, and we're done with the hair, more or less. So we have all the smaller details also created. It doesn't take so much time to do it if your hair is all defined properly at the previous steps. You just need to block in or just draw in more smaller things. Maybe I can even just smooth it out a little bit. It looks like a little bit too much, but it's all depending on the style you're going to go for. So I'm not gonna say which how detailed it should be. It's more of your own choice to create whatever you wanted to end up with. So final refinement that you can do would be like you can create even smaller hair strands on some of the areas, like the back. It's too simple here. The back doesn't have much of a variation here, so you may choose to use some of the the hairbrush we created earlier, this one, to block in more smaller little hair over here, like very small ones, smaller here. It seems like that to populate some more smaller ones here and there to do that. So maybe I can have another fast video for this part, and then we're done with the hair. So see you in the next tutorial.